Hello, hola, namaste, and good afternoon. Welcome to the TechGig virtual panel discussion. I am Sukriti, and today I'm here with an interesting conversation that excites almost all of you, all the techies out there actually. And we're going to talk about resumes. As the times changed for all of us in the past couple of years, almost every aspect of our lives had undergone a tremendous shift. The fundamentals of jobs, resumes, job applications, descriptions, in fact, the entire recruitment process changed as well. Today, recruiters aren't just combing through the stacks of paper. Instead, they're using all the possible digital tools and platforms, which are much faster and much more efficient. Now, hiring managers are actively using these readily accessible social recruiting tools to find the qualified candidates and the best talent available in the market. Today, I'm in conversation with the people who actually strategize and execute the entire recruitment from start to finish. As techies, what does a resume, or I should say your skill profile, look like? So, what do hiring managers look for while hiring you? And what are the kind of credible sources of information that rely on before hiring any tech talent in the market? We will get through all these questions with our panelists today. Please join me in welcoming Ranjana, Sagar, Global Head of Recruitment from Attra; Dhaval, Upadhyay, Talent Acquisition Leader, Quick Heal. I will also be joined by Sonal, Vaidya, who is the Global Head Organization Development and Effectiveness from L&T Technology. Unfortunately, our fourth speaker, Abhay, could not join us for the session because there was some medical exigency at his end that he had to off. So now, before we go ahead and I get on to the questions that I have for our speakers for today, I would like to inform the audience that we'll open our Q&A forum in the end once we're done with our panel discussion. So please feel free, drop in your questions in the chat window, and I'm going to take them up in the end once we're done with the discussion. Okay, before we move ahead, Ranjana, Dhaval, please go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and also give us the opening remark for the session. What are you looking forward to in the conversation today? Ranjana, we'll go ahead with you.
Sure. Thanks, Sukriti. Thanks for this platform, and I think a really interesting topic. And I think we all are looking answers here on in terms of how the assessment process goes and how things have changed during pandemic, and how is the hybrid hiring process is going on. Okay, so looking forward to this discussion and taking away from a lot of things from here. About me, I'm Ranjana, and I have around 17 years of experience all in talent acquisition. I've been part of Attra for last 9+ years, and in this particular role, I have been heading their global talent acquisition and managing in terms of the operations around the recruitment process. So in this role, definitely I have witnessed volume hiring across geographies, managing employer branding, and also diversity and inclusion. So that has been my primary role, and that's what I do at Attra. Thank you so much, and
thanks, Ranjana. Dhaval?
Sure. So obviously, I'm expecting, what are the best practices which are going around at different organizations, and I'm looking forward for this intriguing conversation with everyone. And obviously, you know how the pandemic has changed the style and the way of recruiting. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Obviously, we'll try to take away the best practices and try and inculcate in the current processes. In terms of my experience, I have got around 15 years of tech recruiting experience in BFSI and product engineering domain. Currently with Quick Heal, I'm heading the global talent acquisition function here, so running all the processes, managing the team, ensuring how do we bring in quality candidates, and eventually meet the larger objective of an organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Dhaval. Sonal, please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're looking forward to, when it comes to the conversation today.
Sure. So hi, this is Sonal, and I've been a part of L&T for almost 9 years now. Come with around 22 years of experience in organization development. My experience throughout has really been in IT and engineering world, and I'm really looking forward to an exciting conversation. I think the war of talent is really unprecedented, the way we see it now, and a cynosure for developing talent internally still remains, and that's really a top focus. But nevertheless, I think the future of work is here to stay, and that really does require us to look at recruitment from an entirely different lens, and skills become extremely imperative and fungibility becomes the key. So yeah, I'm looking forward to an exciting discussion here.
Thank you so much, Sonal. Thank you so much for that. Now I will quickly move towards the first question, the first things first today. Okay, so all the conversation that I've had so far and what people are already talking in the market, everyone talks about the technical recruitment trend, quote unquote, the trend. I would want to know from all three of you that one, trend, the technical recruitment trend that you would want to mention that nobody has spoken of in the market and people should talk about. So let's go ahead with you, Dhaval, first.
Sure. So I think one technical trend which stands out, post-pandemic, which is, everything has gone digital, from recruitment to remote interviewing to remote onboarding. Everything has gone, and there are a lot of, entirely rapidly maturing marketplace of tech solutions of, video conferencing, asynchronous interviewing that has seen a lot of upsurge. That is one, obviously. And along with that, what has happened is I have seen, in yesteryears, where every organization was asking candidates to come for a face-to-face interview, that actually delayed the process. And now what I'm seeing is speed to offer has increased, but then conversion from offer to joining, that has become a challenge. So that is something which I can I would like to highlight here, that availability of candidate, the no-shows have decreased. Availability of candidates and their time to take an interview, that has increased. Yeah.
Thank you, Dhaval. Ranjana?
Yes, I think the trends for us, what we did is one of the trends that I wanted to talk about is we are all talking about the talent war, and we are all talking about the shortage of talent, the demand and supply gap. So we definitely were one of the affected organizations in terms of this shortage of talent. And what we tried doing is that this particular year, in the beginning of the year, we looked at non-engineering graduates. So we have been constantly hiring graduates year on year as a part of hiring process, and then train them internally and then make them part of the pool, internal pool in Attra. So one of the biggest things that we actually looked at, why not look at non-engineering graduates? When I say non-engineering graduates, why not look at the MCA, BSc pool, basic computer science? That is what we started catering to. So we started looking at that pool and how do we actually utilize that pool and create a larger pool for ourselves in the organization. And that's something we started doing, and we had a batch of around 30 people in the beginning of the year, and we are already looking at another batch now. So that has definitely helped us in creating a pool for ourselves, very different from all the where other companies were also leveraging. So this was a very different thing which we thought, and I think most of the organizations right now should look at this pool, because it's a wide pool. There's a big pool of BCA, BSc Computer Science graduates available, and that's a pool available in tier 2, tier 3 cities, which we need to cater to create a higher or bigger pool for us in the industry. Upskill them, take them to the level of engineering graduates, and I think that is something that we did differently, and I'm very optimistic about this approach, and definitely can be a bit of problem solver in this talent war.
Thank you so much, Ranjana. Sonal, what do you have to share here?
So I think two things that we did differently. The first one was, engaging with them much before they actually came on board. So in final year itself, so we've changed our entire model. If you were to talk about hiring and training, so what we do is even before we actually formally get them on board, uh, there is a program that we run for engineering final year graduates, which is called as Step In. And the Step In is an engagement, and we do work closely with NASCOM skill building on that platform. We have their platform. And much before we even get them into the system, they are a set of certain skills that they are supposed to acquire. And that kind of increases our pool. And then, at the end of it, there are certain assessments which are associated with it. And after that 4 week of engagement is when they actually come to a training, which is called as Genesis in our academy. So this is something new that we've introduced, and it's just about, increasing the pool and increasing our engagement with engineering, most of the engineering colleges. And the second unique thing which we've done, which is the largest in the country, is we run a unique initiative which is called as TechGig, where all the final year and third year engineering graduates can apply, and they are given around 350 customer problem statements. And they are also aligned a mentor from L&T, and they are supposed to create POCs. Now this year, 25,000 students participated. Around 370 colleges, engineering colleges, including IITs and NIITs, participated. And what we do see is that we see people, first of all, it's not about just them having technical skills. It's about really seeing whether they can practically apply it close to context, close to home. And, that has also become the biggest hiring pool for us. So the people who do come up with POCs, they are offered to join us. And increasingly in the last 2-3 years, we are seeing that, as one of the channels, because I'll tell you one thing that I've really seen is that, when you're talking about the war for talent, no longer only the brand can hold you. Your employee value proposition really needs to increase. I can no longer go in the market and say, L&T is known for engineering and join us. People really want to see, can they really do meaningful work? Is there really something that excites them? And that's Gen Z for us. So I think that's the reverberating effect it really creates. So those are the two things we've done differently.
So, in this course of sharing things that you're doing differently in your organizations, I think that's partially covered. The next thing that I wanted to ask was that what are the kind of the conventional method that you've broken the pattern of, and how have you started shortlisting and looking at candidates? But I would also want to draw a comparison here for our audience who are listening to us. Help us understand that why does the idea of dropping the conventional method and accepting and adopting the digital mode of looking out for candidates and evaluating them, and looking at their core competencies. Why is it important in today's time? Because I think today we are living with much more options than what we had in maybe in the last 2 years, right? in terms of our jobs, in terms of our scopes, in terms of our salary, in terms of our skills, everything. So, Ranjana, I'll go back to you and help me understand how this conventional method of resume shortlisting specifically has changed, and how is the whole idea of doing this? Because I think somewhere or the other, on the grounds, it remains the same, because it again directs you to sourcing them. But I think doing it digitally is something that is a weapon for all of us, right, as recruiters. So help me understand about that, Ranjana.
Sure. So I think it's something very, very interesting in terms of the idea of moving away from conventional method of shortlisting resume. So I think most of the organizations right now uses a talent application tracking system. And these application tracking systems are technologically so created that they definitely match the job description using the AI/ML. The kind of searches that the recruiters are trying to put rather than the keyword search only, right? And I think one of the things that as a recruiter I learned is we need to look at the breaks in the career. We need to look at the breaks in the education. I think those are the things that we broke out of those norms, and like really we don't want to look at those kind of gaps in the career. We really not looking at what has the experience been. What we are trying to look at is the skill matching here with the job that we have for them. Can that person be upskilled? Can that person be really brought in and made to do that job? So we are right now looking at more of matching the resume, not from the perspective of looking at, we're not anymore looking at resumes and being in a rejection mode of not having people with gaps, not having people coming from the competitors. So we have these list of 5 competitors, and I will go and hire from those 5 companies only. And I'm not looking at resumes coming from startups, or I'm not looking for resumes coming from a company which is not so known in the industry. So I think we've broken those norms, and we have come out and told that, hey, there is a skill match and I'm going to hire this person if he is assessed and found to be suitable, if he or she is assessed and found to be suitable. And I think these 8 years have really helped us to go that way. The technology has really helped us to go that way. I think one of the biggest things that we have broken as a norm is going away from unconscious bias. So I think that's a big thing that we have gone away from. And I think, or if we have not totally gone away, we have really made steps towards going away from there. And that's definitely leading us to the path of creating more diverse and inclusive talent inside an organization. So I think those are the things that we are doing, and I think definitely those have been breaking the conventional norms of hiring or looking at a resume. We have gone to the path of not even asking for resumes from the graduates in the college. So we are saying, okay, just give us the list of the candidates who matches our recruitment criteria. So we have 1, 2, 3, and they match the recruitment criteria. We are going ahead with their first round of assessment. So that's what we are doing right now, not even asking them for the resume, because we really don't want to look at any of their personal details to make decisions on hiring and shortlisting resumes. So resume shortlisting, resume screening has definitely gone towards a next level of hiring, which is very technology influenced, which is more towards creating diverse talent. So that's what we are doing right now, and I think that's taking us to the right ways of hiring.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that, Ranjana. Dhaval, what would you want to add here?
All right. So I think I'll tell you a couple of problem statements that we had here, and I'll tell you what we did. We were churning, right? We are a product engineering organization doing a lot of deep tech work in cybersecurity space. So we were churning a lot of resumes, and I want to connect back to what Ranjana said about unconscious hiring biases. So people, when we get resumes from the services organizations, the leaders or managers were not even willing to speak to the candidates. And when we pushed them to speak, they were spending a lot of time in interviewing, but eventually we were not getting the results, right? The hit rate was not that great. So what I have done with the recruiting team is I have told them, I have taken problem statements from the hiring managers, the coding statements, the problem statements. We take those coding statements. When we talk to candidates, we give them the assessments. We give them 48 hours and 72 hours or case to case basis, right? If someone is busy, we ask them to submit the solution. And then we give that solution to the hiring managers. Hiring managers, we tell them if there are a couple of syntax errors and if you see some compiling issue on the program, still you talk to the candidates. But if the program is completely not written, not even a class, then you don't proceed with the speaking to the candidate. So in this way, we have increased the quality of the resumes submissions. The quantity is not that great that much, but the quality is there. In this manner, what we have done is we have saved a lot of hours of panels interviewing candidates and eventually not showing up during our post offer. In this, what happens is my recruiter strikes a solid rapport with the candidate, right? He gains the candidate's confidence, and he also gains a lot of credibility with the hiring manager. So this is one of the assessment methods that we have inculcated in lateral hiring. In places where, cases where we are hiring architects or product managers, which are again tough to find in the security space, what we have done is we have given them a problem statement and asked them to record a 5-minute video, and we take that video to the hiring manager and save their time. So this is something that we have done it very successfully, and we are seeing a lot of positive results. And in this way, my recruiting team also learns and they get closer to the code. I'm not asking them to code, but at least they get closer to the code, and eventually wins confidence of candidate and the hiring manager.
Thanks, Dhaval. I'm sure all our audience present here, all the techies are making note of everything that you guys are saying here and giving us the directions of that how and what you're trying to look at when it comes to various domains and verticals. Thank you for that. Sonal, anything that you would want to add here?
So I think, for us, recently, and I think this is as recent as 3.5 years, we of course do the technical assessments and we go through the normal rung when it comes to, and right now I'm just talking about mass hiring, which is freshers, because the approach is different for different levels. And this is just an approach for freshers because that's where, shortlisting becomes an issue. So anywhere between freshers and I would say 0 to 4 years this is the approach that we're deploying. For us, like I even mentioned before, fungibility is the key because because for us that really impacts profitability. So if I get people who and there are no straight jacketed roles now, and that is the reason you see the entire scenario changing. Now, what we also assess is something which is called as a fluidity index, or it's called as the learnability quotient. And that is also an assessment which we are doing for 0 to 4 years now. Because for us, it is really, reskilling is very important. Because, while we do have projects which are long drawn and annuity based, we also have projects which may be as short as 6 months. So if they have to get redeployed, means they need to have that learnability quotient to reskill and get redeployed. And if that doesn't happen, you will have people sitting on bench, which can really impact your profitability. And especially when you hire in masses, for us, in a quarter, we hire around 3,000 to 4,000 people, more than that. So that's one of the things we deploy. And of course, when it comes to senior leadership hiring or mid-level hiring, it's a given that they have the skill, they have the competence. That time what we gauge is cultural alignment, because we do know that people stay or leave at that level only due to cultural alignment. So I think that's the philosophy that we really adopt.
Thank you, Sonal. Dhaval, now we've spoken about almost everything of the trends and all. Help me understand how is the method that we have spoken of, and of course, generally organizations are looking at new ways of hiring in a very cost and time effective manner.
See, one thing I'll tell you is about branding, right? Recruitment branding is very important. Reaching out to candidates, obviously that's the sought after method every organization uses. But nowadays, we want um, organizations to stand out, communicate the EVP, the differentiator, and we want the audience to reach out. I mean, the candidates to reach out to us. So what I feel is the candidate application process should be as smooth as possible. There shouldn't be a lot of form filling activities when they are applying through web. The application process should be easy. So here, what internally we are trying, I'm working on a POC here, which is where I put a QR code, and anyone who goes through, search through web or LinkedIn or our career page, just scan the QR code and submit the resumes. So I think we want to make it a very candidate friendly application process and not too much of form filling. I understand, when we are dealing in volumes, it's again not that easy. There are ATSs in place, but I think, still this application process should be made very easy.
Interesting. I think that application prospect of hiring, I think it's very important, and we barely find things of these sorts that that the application process. But don't you think, Dhaval, that the kind of platforms that are being used these days, the tools that are available, I think it's more easier for us to evaluate people's core competency with various things that are available rather than just believing onto what they are showing up in the digital resume, I should say. So we've got that knack, HRs have got that knack of picking up people with the right skill sets with the digital tools that's in place. So thank you for that. I'll now move to Ranjana. Ranjana, there's this angle of assessment, right? We spoke of the assessment that happens for the candidates. So assessing the candidate's potential through predictive or cognitive whatever assessments is in trend these days. How effective is this format for you, or for the I should say industry, and how do you think it's panning out for everyone?
Okay. So yeah, Sukriti, again a very interesting topic here, and a question in terms of assessments. I think everybody is trying to see how we can actually maximize our recruitment hiring time. So the hiring time has to be maximized, because we are trying to interview as many, or we are trying to assess as many candidates for the open demands that we have. So I think predictive index, just for the audience to get a little context about what is predictive assessment, I think is as simple as it is a personality test to find if the potential employee is suitable for that particular job role that we have in our organization. So it is as simple as PI is a personality test to find out the suitability to that role. As Sukriti mentioned, in terms of what does it matter, it does measures your personality characteristics through this test, as well as it also measures your abstract intelligence. So there are two types of these predictive index tests which are available in the market. One is the cognitive and the second is the behavioral test. So what are we doing with these cognitive assessment as well as behavioral assessment? So I think most of the organizations, especially talking about the technology hiring, I think what we see and what we know in the job market is most of the organizations are using right now is cognitive assessments, and that's something. What are we doing with this cognitive assessments? We are again trying to measure. Again trying to actually evaluate people on their abstract intelligence. We are trying to find out how are they in terms of their suitability to the role, and how will they grow in that particular role. So I think a very apt tool for mass hiring, very apt tool for hiring people from campuses. So that's about cognitive assessment. And I think one of the major thing that I started talking about in my the first instance is unconscious bias, and predictive assessment, cognitive assessment, I think is one of the biggest tool for removing unconscious bias, because that's where what we are doing right now and how we operate with this cognitive assessment is we have a test and we actually have audiences, or we have these potential employees whom we want to give this test. We are not even aware where they're sitting in this country, right? And this test goes to them. They pick up this test online. They attempt this test, and then we have the results with us. We know that these are the people who are suitable, and they clear the cutoff, and they are apt for this particular role. So what is happening is there is no personal interview. There is no assessment at the first. There is no resume coming. We are not shortlisting based on the resume. We are shortlisting based on the cognitive ability of a candidate. So that's where we are trying to remove. I think these tools are very, very apt for removing those unconscious bias, bring in a lot more of inclusive crowd in an organization. In terms of cognitive assessment, we as an organization have been very, very widely using this tool throughout the campuses in the country. And I think TechGig is one of the partners with us in terms of evaluating on the cognitive assessment. We have been also partnered with a couple of other companies in terms of using these cognitive assessments, and have been really, really useful for us to first try and find the fitment, and second, I think bringing in the mass hiring recruitment, or the mass hiring into a much streamlined manner, bringing in shortlisting of the resumes much easier for the recruiters. So that is what I think about predictive assessment. On the behavioral side, okay, I think I will just touch upon one of the points. So behavioral assessments have not been become very, very popular in the technology hiring, but yes, there have been some tool which there has been uses of it, especially in the leadership hiring role, and that is where we have been also using behavioral assessment to bring in the leadership layer, and very apt tool again to try and find out if the personality characteristics of an individual matches the job role. And as Sonal was mentioning that it is basically the cultural fitment which is important in the leadership layer, and that's what lets an employee stay with an organization more than the skill or more than the competence. So I think this is what we have on predictive assessment, and very, very apt tools to hire and to again look at a very, very modern way of hiring, and looking forward in the technology hiring space.
Thank you, Ranjana, for that. Sonal, now we've spoken of how predictive assessments are helpful, and what are the kind of expectation that Ranjana has for the tech evaluation when it comes to cognitive and behavioral assessments, of course. So when you say a resume or maybe a skill profile has certain core competency of a candidate mentioned over there, how do you think one can evaluate? And when we're talking about skill badges, that actually it's offerings in the market, and it kind of validates that you've skilled yourself into a certain potential, maybe a technology or something. But tell me, what is the credibility, and how other corporates looking at it? It is popular, it is not, and how are corporates and candidates both looking at it?
So I think the approach to that is that there is of course some truth, but it's not the whole truth. So while the person has gone through some certifications, and and at certain proficiency levels, and giving that due pro to it, I think there are two things that we really check. One is, even when you look at the skill badges, and since we are in the technical domain, and there are a lot of skills when it comes to technical, one is see, there are certain bodies And when I say certain bodies, it's even in terms of, what we're doing right now to democratize learning, like the Coursera and the Skillsofts of the world. And, there are LinkedIn Learning, there are a lot of such platforms. Now, there are certain platforms from where if you do certifications, they are even recognized by our customers. And there are a set of such validated certifications which are there. And, shortlisting them becomes a little easier for us, because even when they come to the organization, that's the first thing that they will have to do if they have to get deployed, because that's a mandate. So for us, if we see the certifications coming from certain bodies, which are a part of our partnership, that's definitely, something that we would like to shortlist. Because of course there's a whole lot of investment that's done, and the mode of how they do the certification is very robust. Like if I were to talk about one particular one, there's a very rigid assessment process which is associated with it. And that assessment process has a validity of somewhere 0.43, which is, a good validity for an assessment. So that, of course, those are the kind of people whom we do shortlist. The second thing which is really important for us is, there is something called as even when they put skill batches, there is a metadata search you can do on the skill batches that they put. Now, a lot of time people just put certifications which are not validated certifications, and they don't have an end time. Now, most of the validated certification, they come with an end time and an end period. And there are also a lot of times when somebody may have done certification 5 years back, but you have more versions that have come up, and that certification is of no use to us now. So that's something that the recruitment team does run a check on, and that's important for us. And then, of course, for us to validate these skills, there are assessments. So whether you have those skills, you don't have those skills, the baseline assessments, they have to definitely clear. But of course, when you're looking at mass hiring, if they do have it from a validated source, it helps us screen them. And from a leadership perspective, again, I think when you look at assessments, one of the most important things that I feel is using a validated tool. And even when you're using a validated tool, a tool which may be benchmark in the market may not necessarily produce a validated result for your own organization. So running a validation study in the organization if you've got enough data for a period of 3 years and doing a correlation between the test scores and the performance, and then coming up to a median, I remember when I introduced the assessment, I said 80% is going to be the clearing percentage for me. But over a period of 3 years, when I analyzed my data and I said, what percentage gives me a high performer in the organization, which is a 4 or a 5, that percentage is just 70 point something. So I know I need to lower my threshold, because the last thing the assessments can do is it lets the wrong people seep in and the right people seep out. And I think that becomes very important for us as an organization to produce that validation study to the leadership team. And that's a commitment to them also. Whether it's for base hiring and for leadership roles, we do use leadership assessments, which are benchmark assessments. But a lot of leadership assessments that are now available, it helps you benchmark your culture. So it helps you create something which is called as an HJA, which is a human job analysis or a benchmark for a role, a leadership role. So we do the assessment and then we see how close or far he is from our own culture. And based on that, it becomes a very strong indicator to even have the interview process, because this is all precursor to the interview process itself. So yeah.
Okay, so so that I completely understand that evaluation and assessments can only be considered when it comes to bulk hiring. For leadership roles, of course, people would never come up and give you, tests, and it's more of the behavior and decision making that you need to testify and see that it works or not, and less of how much the person knows in terms of the core skills, right? So that's a completely different discussion that we should have rather. But to talk about, let me make a revelation here that the entire recruitment process has sourcing, you have to evaluate, and it's like a step-by-step process that's involved. Now, we are a community of more than 4 million developers altogether. And what we've done is we've created profiles for all the people who've involved and have been a part of any kind of hackathon, any competition, any kind of ideation challenge that we've worked with various brands, and we've made a profile. So what it does is it gives you a preview of what the person has done, what are the kind of core competencies the person has in various domains. For example, if a person is a Java developer, what are the skills that the person has, how much, there's a score as well wherein you can see, and all these things, in fact every inch of information is not manual, it's an automated process. You go, you create your profile, you enlist the things that you've engaged with us. Our AI will go cross-check that how you've performed in the various tests, and then it comes back with a proper developer profile for you. So I think it's kind of an innovation that we're trying to work upon, and we're trying to give all the recruiters like you to understand, see, and basically utilize the entire recruitment process in the most time effective manner. And once, so for example, if we are giving you say 100 profiles to shortlist, and even if you like maybe 10 of them, you can directly call them for an interview, because you know that these people have a good record of past 6 months that the profile is actually reflecting. So we're trying to work upon and help recruiters like you to efficiently do your job and drive the best results out of it. And I think innovation is something that all of us are constantly working on, and it should not stop. We all of us are doing it on a regular basis. So that's something that TechGig specifically is looking at, and we are trying to help recruiters by bringing in these PG profiles for the recruiters and for the candidates both. Of course, when people in brands engage with us, as Ranjana mentioned that she had her a set of engagement activities with us, and when brands like Attra get in touch with us when they have these requirements put in, we will try and minimize as much as possible. Right? We'll try and minimize it for you, and we've tried our best to give you the best possible resource when it comes to hiring the best talent. So that's something that we are trying to work upon, and I'm sure the kind of expectations that you guys give me through this conversation, I also work with my team to help understand them that what are the needs that the recruiters and the tech leaders are looking at, and what's something that we can actually work upon and come up with. So that's we are trying to build in something of those sorts altogether. I wanted to bring in that to everyone's notice that we're doing something of this sort, because the kind of expectation that sets up in the market is something that we're on a continuously basis where we are actually studying them. So we're trying to understand those things and come up with the right solution. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting insights from each one of you. I'll just check if we have any questions. Audience, do you have anything for our guest speakers for today, or else we'll go ahead and we'll wrap. Before I wrap up, of course, I would want to call out Dhaval, Ranjana, Sonal. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with me. Your experience and knowledge has given me a good analysis of what the market is looking at and what are the requirements that what are the expectations rather that you guys have in terms of doing better recruitment in the market. So thank you so much for that. Before I wrap this up, I would want a closing remark from each one of you. Sonal, we'll begin with you. Sonal, I think you're on mute. We cannot hear you.
You can hear me now? Yeah, you can hear me now, right? No, I think it was a wonderful session. And I think what you mentioned right now, the attempt that you are making as an organization, I think anything which is going to increase the skill to deploy time is really a welcome change for most of the tech organizations, because I think that's something that they're really grappling with. And I think the organizations which are working towards that, I feel, you know, because today everybody wants people to become billable as soon as possible. And, you know, if you do get a set of people who's going to reduce that kind of lead time for you, I think that would be a welcome change for a lot of organizations. And I think really interesting insights from my fellow colleagues on, you know, the various recruitment processes, and something that I'm taking back in terms of best practices too. So thank you for being candid and for sharing, you know, your views. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonal, once again. Ranjana?
Yeah, I think Sukriti, thank you for this platform and this engaging conversation around the assessment and around skill batches, resumes. I think it was really wonderful to have insights from my co-panelists. Thanks, Sonal and Dhaval. Taking a lot of inputs from you. Also, I think the focus right now especially in the technology hiring space is how do we, as Kruti you were mentioning, how do we bring in more and more innovation? How do we actually reduce this whole time to hire concept, and how do we bring in the talent faster in the organization? So that is what I think most of the recruiters are trying to look at. I think the key here is time to hire and bringing in innovation, bringing in more technology to automate things. I think that's the future of hiring and recruitment right now. As much we automate, I think we will see more success. We will reduce more of human and bring in and eliminate unconscious bias, bring in more diverse population in the organization. So that's what I think the future of hiring or technology hiring will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjana. I would also want to add here to what you said, that we'll try and automate things. We'll definitely try and automate things, but the decision making would still be with all of us, for people like us who can actually empathize with the human emotions and the intelligent quotient, the emotional quotient that we talk of. Definitely, that is something that we need to keep in our hands, and rest, I think automation is all helping us do things in the best possible manner. Dhaval, closing remark from you.
So amazing opportunity to interact with the veterans, and I have taken a lot of notes. I'll take back the best practices and see what can be implemented. And thank you, Sukriti, for calling me. I just want to highlight for all the technical professionals is I think your hard skills are something which makes you stand out. So if you have done a project on GitHub or a code finder or a Kaggle for data scientists, put the links on your portfolios on the resume. I think that adds weight on the resume, and application to get through becomes much faster, and chances of them getting through to the process becomes faster, because obviously all the recruiters receive a lot of applications, right? And humanly sometimes it's difficult to read all the resumes. So those kind of things which stands out, and I would request them to add their historic work done in terms of codes. Please add those in your portfolios, in your resumes. That will help us. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dhaval. I think that that would help our audience understand things better and do things better. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you to our eminent panelists for giving us the right insights that our audience was actually looking at. And they were looking forward to when we were having this conversation. Audience, thank you so much for joining in. I will be back with another discussion next week. Till then, stay tuned to TechGig for all the latest tech updates.
Thank you.
Good day.